Mr. Pauthang Haokip. So, your first response to what you heard of the governor and Sushil ji. The meeting is taking place.
Okay, thank you for inviting me for the show. I have a slightly internet problem. Am I audible?
You are audible.
Okay. So all these what you call all party meet that is underway in Delhi, and also the delegation which met the governor of Manipur. They are all done in good spirit, so we don't doubt their spirits. So now all these exercises are done in a way to bring down the amount of violence that is currently taking place in the state, and also to somehow ensure relief delivery and so on and so forth. But whether these myths that we see time to time are a long-term solution or not is something that we have to take into consideration. I would not like to deliberate it a bit further. I will reserve it for my later deliberation. So any myth, as of now, it may not be possible to discuss the integrity of the historical context, the cultural, political, and economic context, and also the social context, and all what has led to this problem. So this might be discussed in all this meeting. But on top of all these things, we need to look forward in order to avoid any such future to not to appear in future again. And for that, we need to have some kind of long-term solution. So what is long-term solution? That I will later on deliberate.
Okay. Nava Kishorji, your thoughts, your first reaction on this meeting which has taken place?
Yes, though it's late, very late, but I think this meeting is a very important step to discuss the issues, and the leaders from all the parties, they should think honestly and sincerely how to resolve or to stop this violence, because this is affecting the poorest, the poor to poorest section of all the communities. It is not just the Meitei or not just the Kuki, it's everyone. So unlike we have seen in the recent trend, the parties, they make issues for sort of like the vote bank politics, or making this as a like the coloring the religious angle. It is nothing like that. This problem, what happened in Manipur, is something very complicated, very deep rooted. It will take time, but the normalcy has to be restored first. The peace will take some time, but the normalcy has to be restored. So in the last visit of Honorable Union Home Minister Ji in Imphal, he promised that he will take necessary actions to control the violence. The number one, he told that the militants, they will be asked to go to their respective camp, and from the other side, the civilians who have involved with the kind of taken those arms and ammunition from some police station, they had to be surrendered. The combing operations are still going on, but what we see is still almost 24 days after that Home Minister's assurance, I think it did not bring any fruitful result. So that remained a big concern, and it is good that the different spiritual gurus have been there, visited the place, but I think everyone must put the honest and sincere efforts, then only the normalcy will come, and normalcy has to be restored in the first place in Manipur.
Okay, so there are a couple of things which are clear. So going back to Rami, the conversation got cut because I think there was a Wi-Fi issue. First complete your argument which were you trying to make, and then I've got a very specific question for you.
Kartikeya, I had a very limited argument that this is a great move. All party meet was going to happen. It was going to happen at an appropriate time. We have to give benefit of doubt to the government that, they are taking steps in measure while sort of assessing the security situation. Because at this point, anybody can say anything and anything can be taken in the wrong way. And we've seen this happen before. So I think it's a great thing. And I think all the opposition leaders who haven't showed up, it's a really shameful move on their end, because virtue signaling is easy, but putting the state of Manipur over and above your personal differences, would have been a great show of confidence for everybody in Manipur, for all the communities involved in Manipur. But having said that, this is a very welcome move, and I think there will be suggestions and recommendations that will come out of this meeting if they have not already been thought about. I'm very interested to see what they come up with. I doubt that it will be a very harsh, heavy-handed solution to the situation. I assess, and this is complete, just conjecture from my end, that, this could be something of maybe, taking a step towards a suspended animation of the assembly, and I think from there on in, if that is what happens, long-term solutions will be sought after. I think it is not lost on anybody, and like the gentleman before me rightly said, that eventually this is a question of long-term solutions, because these are long-term problems. These problems haven't just cropped up 2 months ago. It's just we haven't been paying attention. So, I think the long-term solution part of it is going to take some time, some deliberation, some cooling down of tempers, but this is a great start to it.
Rami, do you welcome interfaith approach? Because
absolutely, Kartikeya, there's no doubt. I've always said that there has to be some sort of representation from all stakeholders. Of course, we don't look at this violence from a religious lens, but that doesn't mean that religious leaders don't have an influence on any of these communities. Of course they do. And of course, we know we are a highly spiritual civilization, and, this sort of guidance means a lot to us. So apart from political stakeholders, apart from civil society stakeholders, of course, religious stakeholders, have written this in my article that, we don't want to touch these things because we don't know how it will be taken, how our words are misrepresented in these, days of social media and hyper emotions. But the fact of the matter is that, even community leaders, elders of tribes, all these people have a huge influence in communities, have a huge influence on how people are going to look at this violence in the future and figure out solutions, amongst community members to live together once again. So, of course, this is, this was, I think, a great initiative.
Mr. Haokip, this question is to you. Do you welcome the interfaith approach? Before I broaden this discussion, the reason why I'm asking you is, if people recall, the first visuals of the violence in Manipur came off the religious structures being destroyed.
So any move which has come from different sections of the society, including religious leaders, it's a welcome move. So as I told you at the beginning of my statement, these are done with a good intention. There is no doubt in my mind that all this religious group has come with a hard-hearted mind. So they have come with a good-hearted mind to somehow, if not find a solution, somehow dose down the level of violence. And thereupon gave some space for future negotiation to start. So this should have come long time back, but given the kind of gravity of the conflict, so there was, in a way, not much room for all these civil society organizations to meet together and carry out this kind of peace appeal. So peace appeal, to my mind, if they have come from other religious groups, including other cultural groups, they are all most welcome. But having said that, these appeals are in a way to end the cessation of violence, but it doesn't address the long-term solution. So if I may allow, or if you may allow me to deliberate further upon this, so I will just deliberate, and you bear me out for a minute. So there is no shying away from what you call this land. So land is a very, very integral part of Northeast India, and so is it in many parts of the world. So especially in Northeast India, we need to understand the notion of land. And this notion of land is, to my mind, somewhere one of the factors for the occurrence of this violence. So what does land means to a tribal or to the hill people, and what does land mean to the Métis? So equally, land is a precious what you call resource for both the valley and the hill people. So for the hill people, currently our debate is always vitiated around these binaries, and we always talk about political angle and so on and so forth. But underlyingly, what does land means to a tribal is something that we have to understand in the light of what the Constitution has enshrined for the tribals. So land for the tribal is not only a source of livelihood. Of course, it is one of the sources of livelihood, and in the hills, it is the main source of livelihood. It is one. But apart from livelihood, so anthropologists or any other sociologists or any field will describe how important is land. So land is a marker of identity. All identity, whether they reconnect back to their history, all their folk tales, folklores, and how, and then their what you call all the other expressions such as idioms and proverbs and even arts artifacts. Everything is embedded. Underlying the land is embedded with them. And the language, everything, the culture, the way they weave, everything comes from that land. And land is the ultimate source of their identity. And if their identity, which encompasses language, culture, folklore, folktale, folk story, and historical past, and so on and so forth. So if this land is seen by any tribal, not only the Kukis, anywhere in any part of Northeast, is somehow that is being, if they feel that their land is somehow disturbed, so there will be a reaction on their part to somehow safeguard their land.
Okay.
So in such a situation, you have to look back. We have to look back at the Constitution. With the framer of the Constitution, we are very, very clear that if the tribals or the minorities are not protected from their land, in future, somehow this land will be endangered, and their culture, their language, their history, and their worldview, and especially the knowledge which comes from all these hill areas, all these forest land will be wiped out. And this cultural progress, or what do you call this cultural richness of any tribe, is a massive boost for any academic endeavors. And also a country or a region is based how far its culture is being viable, how far it is being protected. These are good points where any future negotiation should also reflect on this, on the life and culture of the hill people in relation to their land, and their identity has to be looked into for any kind of logical conclusion.
Okay.